Hello, Internet, and welcome back to Sidereal Midnight plays Shadowrun Hong Kong. Last time, we figured out who the killer was. It was... Give me a second here, I need to scroll through my people. Oh, I don't even have them. It was Gaichu, a ghoul that can, actually talk, which is pretty interesting if you know the lore. Because the guys who contract essentially ghoulism are usually pretty savage. But he seems to have it pretty well together, other than his very, very, very messed up face. And now we're back in Haoi, and we're gonna go do what we always do: talk to everybody. Alright. Oh, and Steven Dynamite's gone. Hopefully he's off at the charity at volunteering. Okay, you don't have anything new to say to me. Oh, you're new. So, first let's talk to Henry. Henry Coffey putters about in the back of the club like a great hulking ghost. Despite his size, he goes largely unnoticed by the club's clientele. It is as if they all have a blind spot in which he is happy to reside. Why do you insist on chatting like this? Am I bothering you? I can leave. No, it's just unusual. Most people leave me be. They don't know me, except maybe by name. They certainly don't know what I do here, so they have no cause to speak with me. Yeah, honestly, he seems like a pretty cool guy. I mean, he was a sailor until he started a club. I like this guy. I don't need a reason for a friendly chat. You may be the only one. It seems like I go days without speaking to my own family. But I've gotten used to being the forgotten one in this place. Ermine and Calum are the faces of our business. Freddy is the face of our law, so to speak. I'm no good unless I'm out on the water. Yeah, I like this. He's just a sailor who's in a club, and nobody really knows what to do with that. Guess the skills of a sailor don't really translate to club ownership. No, they don't. I want to be a good provider, but I just don't know how to contribute anymore. I think about my own father. He was a fisherman long before me. For 40 years, he went out early in the morning and returned late at night. He put food on the table in a very literal sense. He did that without complaint every week until the day he died. That's providing. That's being a good husband and father as far as I'm concerned. My father wouldn't have lasted a day in this life of mine. The world just moved on from what he knew and what I knew. I miss those simpler times. Got any good stories for your days at sea? Stories? An old sailor always has stories. In my early years, working the fishing boats, I swear, it seemed like every day we caught something in our nets stranger than the day before. Sometimes it was cargo, either lost or thrown overboard by panicking smugglers. Sometimes it was bits of ships wrecked by those super typhoons they say the geomancers cause. We'd haul up the occasional body. Figure some of them were refugees, either from the mainland after the Civil War, or the Philippines after that whole mess. Human trafficking, pirates, lots of bodies in these waters. But more and more, we'd pull up bizarre sea creatures. Not sure if they were mutants or some kind of awakened critters. The small ones we always threw back as soon as we caught them. If you don't know what something is, it's best to assume it sprays acid or lays eggs in your brain. The big ones, he shakes his head in disbelief. A lot of times we had to cut loose the net. Nets cost a fortune, but when the whole boat shudders and you see 3-meter spines or tentacles or something break the surface, you know it's not worth saving the net. Those were good times though, simpler times. It got more complicated as I got older, and as the seas got ever more fished out. It's even more complicated now that I'm stuck on dry land. He seems really interesting. I like him. Alright, let's talk. You're probably another mercenary. The most immediately noticeable thing about this orc is his immaculately maintained red mohawk. Yup, you got that right. And the beard he's busily nursing. He fixes you with a mischievous grin as you approach, touching 2 fingers to his brow in salute. Hey there, Chief, what's cracking? Do I know you? Extending his hand, the orc shakes his head. No, but you might want to. At least you need a shaman on your crew. Illuminati Alabrad at your service. Hadn't had a chance to get established in Hong Kong yet. Maybe you can help me change that. Okay, so he has another merc. How do you know I'm a Shadowrunner? Are you kidding me? Everybody around here knows about you. I guess they don't get a lot of foreigners who move in and immediately start cozying up to the local Yellow Lotus straw sandal. The rest of us have to show up here and hope somebody needs a hired gun. Honestly, I don't care about you. I really don't. I don't care about mercenaries. I don't need mercenaries. I will never use mercenaries. Let me know if there is a mission associated with these mercenaries, and I will talk to all of them. Otherwise, I care more about the people who stay. Ermine haggles with a dwarf, an invisible dwarf, no less, over the price of a customized shotgun, sealing the deal with the offer of a size-appropriate bandolier. The dwarf leaves happy, and Ermine slots another black market cred stick into her stash. Welcome back, Fist-sensei. How can I help you? This place ever empty? Almost never. The residents of Whampoa have many problems and they come here to deal with them. People like easy solutions. They'll pay good money for them. Guns are one way, booze and drugs another. This is why we sell what we sell. My son Callum doesn't understand this. He thinks he would be happier as some corporate drone, but I've been there, and I can say for certain that it's just a longer path to where we are now. It all ends with drinking or sometimes killing. At least we're direct about it. So how'd you end up selling guns out here? Back when my husband worked for Wu Jing, he had a little side operation, smuggling weapons right under the corporation's nose. Strictly small time and barely worth the risk, but it brought in a little extra money, which we desperately needed. But Henry was never very good at brokering the deals. He hated that part of the business. Didn't care to haggle, always leaving money on the table. We fought about it often, and one day, he told me to handle it, if I cared so much. So I did. As it turns out, I was better at it. Much better. I had worked in the business world before the boys were born. I knew how these things must be done, so I began to make all the deals. I secured the product, I found the buyers. In time, we didn't even need Henry to babysit the shipments. Our influence had grown strong, and now, we run everything safely from dry land. What's the problem with Callum? There is no problem, so long as he remembers his place is here. There are too many ideas in that boy's head, too much ambition. Ambition like that never leads to a good end. He should be happy with what we've built for him. He is the eldest and so very smart. One day, he will take control of the club and all its business. But he feels trapped here. He wants to be free. The irony is that his idea of freedom is to work for a corporation. I know from experience, there's nothing further from the truth. They don't call you wage slaves without a good reason. But here, we have true freedom. We make our own way. I wish he realized this. I try to make him understand, but it only seems to drive him further away. I worry that if I try too hard, I will lose him to his ambitions. Let's see what you have today. Oh my god, these guns are so expensive. Oh my lord. I want them, but I don't care about guns. I'm a melee guy. What do I care about guns for? Is that Calum? Which one is Calum? Really, the drug dealer wants to work for a corporation. I mean, I've heard of Stranger Things. I thought it would be this guy. But nah, I don't want to deal with him. There are some characters I'm going to leave out of this little lore tour. Oh, hello, glaring orc. What do you want? A diminutive female orc regards you with a sharp, challenging look. The fierceness of her expression contrasts starkly with her sweet, rounded face and neat bob. She flexes her cyber fists. Her real fists remain much unflexed, but her cyber fists, they're ready to go. She fires off a rapid-fire reproach in a thick Filipino accent. Not trying that. Why are you staring like that? Didn't anybody teach you manners? She plants her fists on her leather-clad hips and juts her chin out at you. Relax, I didn't mean to stare. She gives you an unwavering, sidelong gaze. You're a stranger on my turf. I expect people to be civil to one another. No offense intended. If you insist, sure, I apologize. She blinks and her jaw unclenches. It's alright. I can tell you're a newcomer. I just feel a little protective of my part of town. I've never seen you here. Of the 2 days I've lived here, you haven't been here. You're the newbie to me. The orc looks you up and down. Finally, with a gruff nod, she introduces herself. I'm Rosario Ignacio, or to the members of my community, Cherry Pink. I specialize in transport missions and nanny services, and I occasionally Shadowrun for walking around money. I can also fry up a mean batch of lumpia, but you can't have any unless I like you. Cherry Pink seems like an odd... Yes, I have to ask that. Fist-sensei has to ask that. She glowers at you. It's a bona fide Filipino nickname. Unless you want a mouthful of fist, you'll show it respect. You said you make great lumpia. What is that exactly? Filipino spring rolls, crispy and delicious and full of pork, or whatever pork-flavored substitute is on sale. It's important to be frugal. It has suddenly become very important to me that you like me. The corner of her mouth twitches upward. She gives you a sidelong glance. Then you must earn it. Everyone wants to be my friend because everybody wants lumpia. Only a handful deserve it. How did you go from babysitting to running the shadows? Her cheeks flush. Well, I used to take care of the children in a Wuxing bigwig up in the peak. Turned out she was siphoning corporate funds to support both a gambling addiction and an extravagant lifestyle. She got sloppy and I stumbled across some pretty damning documents as I was tidying the house. I couldn't unsee them, much as I wished it, and I started to fear for my life. She was growing desperate, erratic. So I ran. What happened... Okay, so... What's happened in the Philippines that you can't go back? The Japanese imperial state happened. Supposedly, they've been in charge there for decades. I was just a little girl when they set their Imperial Marines in. They destroyed my old neighborhood. I don't remember the events, but I still dream of fire to this day. How'd you get out? Half of my family fled to the mountains. The other half left the country and eventually scattered all over the globe. I didn't grow up close to anyone but my parents, who are now gone. What's the political situation like? The Japanese have run up against resistance from a group that came to be known as the Hook Nationalists, neo-anarchists, but the resistance ultimately gets its backing from a dragon, Masaru. While the struggling continues, the country can't heal. Could you smuggle yourself in and find your remaining family? No, I couldn't just waltz in and start looking. Besides, my relatives could be in barricade in caves avoiding JIS forces for all I know. Hate to say it, but I don't think they stand a chance against the JIS. She snorts and lifts her chin high. Filipinos are a resilient people. I think the Hook will triumph eventually, and if I've got a Filipino community around me, I'm good. Thanks for talking about it anyway. Not many people care enough to bother. How'd you get your cyberware? There's always been a large community of Filipinos in the shadows. I reached out and they all pitched in to set me up as a Shadowrunner. Now, whenever I land a good gig, I give most of my earnings away, giving back to the community. Do you ever have regrets about leaving your old life behind? She looks away suddenly, her eyes moistening. I'm not sentimental about my old post, if that's what you mean. The orc takes a big breath and continues. But on Sundays, my only day off, I used to go and sit with the other nannies and housekeepers. We'd bring pieces of cardboard so we could sit on the ground in the shade under bridges. We'd gossip, eat lumpia and rice cake, nothing special. But I don't belong to that world anymore. I couldn't risk getting back to my old employer. I miss my old friends, though. You didn't run too far. Why not leave Hong Kong? I couldn't go back to Manila because of those JIS scumbags, but there's always been a large community of Filipinos in the shadows. I sought them out. Let's talk about something else, if you like. I should go. Be on your way, then. Hopefully she comes back later. I want some lumpia. Whatever it is, I want it. Alright, Maximum Law, let's talk. Yo, Fist-sensei, welcome back to the palace. You got anything interesting to tell me today? He looks at the heap of wearable computers, PDAs, and chip decks on his nearby workbench. Because I got nothing but fixing hair curlers and debugging old ladies' PDAs. I swear I'm going to die of boredom. I'm here for tech. Show me what you got. I don't think I can get Isabel a new deck. I think it's, like, locked. But I might be able to get her new programs. Ooh, I can get her Killer 2.0. Let's see. There's so many of these. Oh, okay. Those are the old ones, and these are the new ones. So let's see. Yeah. I'll give Isabel. I'll see if I can give Isabel some of these. I don't care about erosion if I have killer. I remember liking... I remember liking, Oh, hello. Nah, I'm not gonna mess with the hacking system. No, don't care about that. Let's get Blaster. I get the feeling I'm gonna get enough money back for these to be worth it. Oh, nice, I can finally put this away. I want Fist-sensei to use the shot glove when he fights, because it seems badass as hell. Boom! Another problem solved by Law's Technology Palace. I've got some metadata for you. Yo, tell me what you got. The network runs on information. The recent heist at the Emperor's Tomb Museum, the one under construction, has a specific target. Books. Really? Indeed, they are some sort of ancient text, probably sorceress, and awakened monsters invaded the tomb. Whoa, you serious? That's nuts! Law slaps his thighs for emphasis. Boom! More proof for my theory. The Kong is done. I gave it 2 years tops before demons or something eat everybody. Let's see what I got for you. Grab program. Here's my surplus stack. Law grabs a nearby bin and slams it down in front of you. Check this shit out. Let's get... Nah, I don't need programs. Have you got some new yet? Nice. I'll bill this as data expense. Whampoa recognizes the intrinsic value of information. Information is money. Boom! It's a pleasure handling meta with you, Fist-sensei. Law beams happily. A little meta is like a fresh memory defragment. It makes my whole day better. Oh, I want to see what happens when this is. Your Elder Shire's Gold Assassin 2. I know! Those piss-drinking, pig-sucking. Law erupts into a torrent of livid, awkward profanity. Some sort of pigeon of Cantonese and tech speak. He catches himself short, pulls himself back together, and clenches his fists. You know whose fault this is? NG. She always had it in for Magpie, because Magpie was a genius. That turbo-snorting woo-woo idiot and her lackeys almost destroyed the Whampoa network. He folds his arms across his chest. I hope they string the bones of those morons from the gutters with a bunch of monofilament wire from that blessed auto fab. Law pauses and looks over at you. I've heard all the rumors, but what's the full story? What do you know? We need to port this data out to the whole tribe. Before I go on, you seem fond of Magpie. Magpie was the best of the bunch. She was a wicked coder and a Nova hot decker, plus she knew the infrastructure. Those of us in Magpie's bus maintain the shadow nets. That's what keeps Whampoa independent. Now we've lost Magpie and half the other elders. All that skill base is gone. All because NG got a bunch of cruft in her boards. It was her fault, I'm telling you. I'll tell him the whole story. Still haven't been burned on telling the truth yet. He listens in prolonged silence as you lay it all out. When you're done, he shakes himself as if awaking from a bad dream. Whoa. Law seems stunned. For real? Man, this is going to go down in tribal lore, Fist-sensei. Here, this is a cred stick I keep on hand for when people have special information. Take it, you earned it. I kind of want to think now and share files. See you later, Law. You gotta go? Okay, watch your back and shoot straight and all. Law grins at you and dexterously flash. Okay, it's that thing. Already seen that. Alright. Now, where is... Hold on, I'm looking for the man. The man himself. My soulmate. I don't remember where he is. He's not there. Let's go over here. I think he's somewhere over here. Is this where he is? Yep. This is him. My soulmate. Let's talk. My twin brother. Shen is busily engaged in a conversation with someone on the other end of a video call. The other individual appears to be wearing a tremendously handsome. A tremendously handsome elf, wearing an immaculate and undoubtedly pricey custom suit. Shen doesn't appear to notice you. I'm just saying, if the customs office gives me any more crap about importing those tiger snakes, I'm going to be up creek without a paddle. The elf nods, tilting his head back with a mischievous grin. Leave it to me. I have some friends in the customs house, and between that and their shoddy record keeping, I'm certain I can get your snakes out of quarantine. It'll take a day, maybe two. If it takes longer than that, it's because someone specifically doesn't like you. At long last, Shen seems to notice you. Hold on, Yang. I'll call you back. Got a customer here. Putting down the comm link, Shen bows. Hello again. What can Spider Shen do for you today? I'll do these first. Who's the good-looking elf? He's my lawyer, Yang. Our lawyer, I should say, since he's another Blue Lantern and is part of the same crew. Shen lifts a thin Chinese sword, turning it over so that the light glitters along the edge. I don't do a lot of things that are legal in the strictest sense. It helps to have a good lawyer, you know. For most Shadowrunners, getting caught is the end of their career. Well, see, there you go. If you had a good lawyer, that wouldn't be a problem. Shen grins, chin tilted upward. Saves you a world of trouble, man. Most of the time, caught means dead for us. Shen is unmoved by this information. Well, then your lawyer can make sure your inheritance goes to the right people, eh? This one time, we had to cause a big fuss and make sure it pointed at the Red Dragon Syndicate. We ran into one of their protection rackets and started causing all kinds of a fuss, breaking windows, setting fires, roughing up patrons. Yang told us to wait and get arrested. Problem was, there was a vice squad that really wanted us caught and thrown in jail. We'd embarrassed them a few times already. Shen chuckles quietly. Turns out, he'd used a Decker contact to make sure to swap a bunch of public recordings, so that traffic cameras would conclusively show us somewhere else and arriving at the last minute. He also made sure the vice squad that arrested us was cited for failing to file the proper paperwork on a bunch of previous cases. The squad got canned, we got let go, it was a thing of beauty. Got some new pets in? Shen frowns dourly. They're not pets, they're an investment. I can make anti-venom serums from them. Or I can use the raw venom to accomplish tasks that would otherwise be too messy and loud. Wait, you're an assassin? When I'm paid to be, yes. Most of the time, no. But sometimes Grandfather Woe has a problem that needs a permanent solution. Shen produces a needle from below the boat's table, casually flicking it off to the side. Glancing over, you see that it's embedded halfway into a metal crate. I can solve those problems, and I prefer to have a wide array of tools to work with. It's like this, yes, I can hurt people. It's like this, yes, I can hurt people. But I can also heal them. I learned to heal with my medicine before I learned to hurt. When you learn how the body works, you can learn how to break it as well as fix it. It's like a mechanic and a car engine. If you know how to fix it, you know how to disable it. Show me what you got. Distant storms foretold. A katana forged to disable and harry targets may do AP damage on a critical hit. On a critical hit, does an additional 1 AP shock damage for 2 rounds. Okay, so those are his, like, super weapons. Oh, and he has new armor. Ninja suit? Oh, I'm getting that. Oh, and he has all the new things. I want all those things that he has. Okay, so I need to go get some money and buy things from this man. But first things first, I'm gonna do more looking around. Run, man. Full speed. Okay, let's see if they have anything new to tell me. The 3 men are once again fixated on their game. Gin runs his hands nervously. Together nervously, his face twisted in concentration. It appears that Shu now has the upper hand. The silence of the game is deafening. Amateur players would be filling the air with clicks and clacks of the stones against the wooden playing board, relentlessly trying to outdo one another. These men are different. Shu picks up a small black stone. His hand reaches over the board, then pauses. Gin stares at the outstretched hand, suddenly still. Shu begins to lower the stone. Down, down. Gin is practically on his toes, and then Shu pulls his hand back. Perhaps not there. He strokes his short beard thoughtfully. Gin tosses his arms into the air, nearly knocking over the playing board. Damn it, Shu! When you start a move, you commit to it. I swear, if you're doing this on purpose... Friends. Lau interrupts the players. We have a visitor. The 2 players look up. Gin sides and holds his face in one hand, mutters something beneath his breath. Shu's eyes fixed on you. He stares, unspeaking. His generous smile and playfulness from before are absent. Sorry to interrupt. I was wondering if you're all still having the dreams. This again? Don't you have anything better to do? A little drink there. Yes, we're all still having the dreams. Lau's voice is calm but troubled. However, they've gotten a hell of a lot worse. Gin shifts uncomfortably. Look, let's not go into detail. Anything would be great. He mulls this over. Alright, but afterward, you have to let us finish our game. Sure. He nods approvingly, then glances at Lau and Shu before continuing. Our dreams have become, unpleasant, so to say. Darker, violent. He runs his hand along his tightly cropped beard. Not all that healthy, if you ask me, especially for men of our age. We come out of them in a daze sometimes. Feels like we've been punched in the senses. And the imagery. You can see him shiver as he thinks about it. Well, I said no details, so no details. That about sum it up? Shu, Master Lau? I have nothing more to add. Shu? Shu's eyes bore into you. No, nothing. Is everything alright, Shu? You've been staring at me for a while. Shu continues to stare at you, his face pale. He opens his mouth, closes it. He seems to be struggling to find the words. What's wrong with you, Shu? You better not be having a stroke. We're in the middle of a game. If Shu heard again, he doesn't show it. He looks at you. His eyes widen. You need to go faster. His voice is urgent, pleading. The shadows that follow you are getting closer. Excuse us, Fist-sensei. Our friend is tired. Lau clasps a hand on Shu's shoulder, who doesn't seem to notice. These dreams have taken a toll on all of us. Please come back some other time. Understood. Take care. Alright. Yeah, so the horned lady is, getting on my case. So there's Reliable Matthew over there. Can I talk to either of you? No. Oh, wait. I don't want to forget about, what's-her-face? Crafty. That's what her name is. For the fact that I really like her as a character, I just can't remember her at all. Let's talk. Immediately upon entering, you notice the clutter. Somehow the small magic shop is even messier than before. Stacks and stacks of books occupy chairs, tables, and the tops of shelves. There seems to be even more than when you first visited. It's as if you just entered a paper factory in its spawning season. Does paper spawn now? Is that how this universe works? You peer around a precariously arranged tower of books and find Crafty hungrily reading one of her mother's journals. Red rings her eyes, and tousled hair falls over her face. It looks like she hasn't seen the better part of a pillow in a couple days. She moves to stretch and spots you. With a quick flick of her hand, she marks her place in the journal. What a welcome sight. Have you found anything? Not too much. How about you? A slow smile spreads across her cheeks. She nods. This mind-numbing tedium is starting to pay off. Check this out. The dreams everyone's having? They aren't really dreams, they're omens. From what I've gathered, we're walking a fine line here. They're pretty dangerous. Attempts to interpret them could lead to mixed results. What do you mean by omens? You know, omens. Harbingers of doom and gloom and bad things to come. Her mouth twists to the side as she thinks. Just a minute. Crafty opens a drawer behind the counter and brings out a dictionary, clears her throat. Omen, a sign that warns of future events by way of visionary creatures or hallucinations. She closes the book with a thump. What causes them? Apparently, these sorts of portents are commonly linked with malign places and disaster sites. They're caused by leakage through wounds between our world and the astral plane. What's causing these wounds? Can we stop it? I'm not sure we can. At least, I haven't found anything about that in my mother's text yet. She lays a hand flat on the countertop and leans forward. We don't want to dive into this haphazardly, Fist-sensei. Remember, these omens can be dangerous. How are they dangerous? She holds up a finger and starts digging around for another text. After a moment, she locates a small notepad and flips to a dog-eared page. In here, it says these visions or dreams or whatever you want to call them are real. They're open to interpretation, but interpreting them incorrectly can be disastrous. Astral space is a place of dream logic. Taking the things you see too literally can be even more dangerous than ignoring them. So whatever we do, interpret or ignore, we're inviting trouble. You've got it. The slim chance we have to dig for some sort of meaning is through interpretation, but it's not easy to interpret a dream, and it's even more difficult to separate the nonsense from the substance. Can you interpret the dreams? Crafty plunks the notepad on top of a nearby book tower. Can't help you interpret your dreams. Whatever they're trying to impart, it's beyond me. All I can do is keep reading. There has to be something in this library that can help us understand what's happening. We're already making strides. Thanks, Crafty. I do my best. She smiles tiredly, the bags under her eyes exaggerated by the gesture. See you soon. I'll be here. Alright. What do you want to bet there's going to be, like, an epic confrontation with that horned lady in the astral plane? That's going to be so awesome. Alright, reliable Matthew. Let's see if you have more things to say. A hover drone loiters in front of Matthew. A stream of profanity is spewing from its scratchy speakers. People nearby are looking away, ignoring the awkward situation. Matthew Cigarillo is dead, drenched by the rain. He stands with his signature nonchalance, but the edges of his face are twitching. His eyes are wide with fear. You could listen in, but you've already got the gist. Matthew is being chewed out. I'll hang back and wait. The drone speakers finish with a shriek of feedback and clack back into its hull. The drone soars up into the sky and races off upriver. Matthew shakes himself off. His cheery demeanor surges back with striking resilience. He turns towards you, a little wide-eyed, but otherwise restored to his usual self. Fist-sensei, I hardly saw you there. Come in, don't be a stranger, beautiful. Who are you talking to through the hover drone? One of my suppliers, Kyung Ha. Really good businessman, sharp guy, seems opportunity where most of us only see broken parts. Funny guy, makes me laugh my ass off. Kyung Ha sounded unhappy. Oh, that's just Kyung Ha. He's like a paper tiger. Matthew sways back and forth on his feet, languid and jittery at the same time. He's a big joker, always shouting, but I think he's really soft at heart. Real big heart for the little people. Keeps you well stocked. What's your business arrangement with Kyung Ha? I sell on commission. Gotta keep these bots moving. They don't earn their keep sitting out in the barge. You don't own most of these drones? Matthew's brows arch up in surprise. Of course not. How could I afford them? I'm so lucky that to have a guy like Kyung Ha as a partner. Only problem is he's got me laughing in stitches so much it sometimes distracts me from the sales. Kyung Ha's a funny guy, you say? Yeah, I was laughing my ass off over here. Matthew gives you a long, awkward smile. The seconds stretch out, he blinks uncomfortably. When he speaks, his words sound stilted, like he's repeating a mantra. He's a funny guy. Matthew adjusts his suit lapels with mechanical gusto. Phew! What a pep talker that Kyung Ha. I feel like I could take on the world right now. Goodbye, Matthew. Yeah, he seems like he's in a really weird situation. I wanna go say hi to this guy that's sweeping the same spot for all eternity. Hi, sir. Good to see you're still there. Now let's talk to Kindly Chang. See if she has anything new for me. I already talked to you, little dwarf guy. No, Kindly. Nope. She does not have anything new to tell me. Alright. Now let's get some money. Oh, right, and I have to talk to everybody in the ship. Oh, I have unread messages. Vid about those dreams. Gobbet's face winks onto the screen. Her rats are perched precariously on her head, and she holds a laser pointer clutched between her thumb and forefinger. Oh, hey, Seattle. I hope I didn't catch you at a bad time. She flicks the laser pointer, and her rat's heads swivel to the right to follow the motion. Why did I just say that? This is a recording. It doesn't matter if it's a bad time. Well, anyway. I was thinking about that talk that we had. You know, the dream talk about the nightmares and stuff. Another flick of the pointer. The rats' heads turn left. Their noses twitching. I've got a friend in town. She runs the Parlor of 5 Phases. It's sort of our local magic shop and talismonger. Name's Crafty. Flick. The rats' heads turn upward to stare at the ceiling. Anyway, she's smart. Really smart. Her mom was sort of a local authority on all things magical, and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. If you want to ask anyone in town about these dreams, she'd be the right one to choose. She taps a button on the laser pointer with a thumb, and the little red dot on the tip goes dark. The rats immediately tackle one another, rolling off her head and falling out of sight. She gets up, her head rising out of frame. Anyway, just thought it might help. If you've already been talking to Crafty, please disregard this message. Alright, I'm out. Peace. She punches a button and the screen goes dark. Okay, so then urgent task. Okay, little birds have been whispering in my ear about an urgent and high-paying run. Steel Arm Lou, a red pole, managed to get his hand on information concerning a prototype laser weapon in development by Ares Asia Holdings. For years, the Yellow Lotus and the Red Dragon have been locked in a cold war. Despite this, we remain evenly matched. Neither one of us can attack the other without being exposed to devastating reprisal. Lou wants to change this, and he has a plan. Rather than strike directly, Lou intends to aim external forces at the Red Dragon, specifically Knight Errant. He intends to frame a white paper fan named Golden Fong, making it appear that the Red Dragon have been bribing Ares researchers for classified data. 2 leading drone energy weapons researchers have recently transferred from London to Hong Kong and are running the project. Oh, crap. Oh, these are the guys. Aren't they? These are the guys who Ractor hates and wants dead. Oh, that's going to be interesting. Doctors Taylor and Hardingham were respected in Europe, but in Hong Kong they remain unknown quantities. They're untrusted and therefore considered untrustworthy. Perfect targets, in other words. We will provide data that make it look as if the researchers were contacted by Golden Fong and made quite a bit of money but grew tired of the arrangement. Transfer the attached files to a data chip. The files are bundled with a worm program which will auto-execute when inserted into the appropriate systems. You need not bring a Decker, though one may be helpful. You will need to plant data in the visitor record system. The camera systems in Hardingham and Taylor's lab. Financial data is to be transferred to Dr. Taylor's personal terminal. That in and of itself will be not enough to ensure Knight Errant involvement. However, planting the data is only the first part of your task. This is where a heavier touch will be required. You will also need to steal the prototype laser weapon. There's a GPS tracking device attached to it, which Lou will plant deep in Red Dragon territory. The apparent theft of a prototype weapon by a disgruntled Triad member should convince Ares to dispatch overwhelming force against the Red Dragon, dealing them a vicious blow. As a note, Lou does not care what becomes of the laser weapon. If you wish to sell it or keep it, feel free. I have also attached a map of your extraction route from the building. During the facility's expansion in 2052, Ares Asia was forced to extend their foundations deeper into the island. They drove piles through the former site of the central MTR station, which partially collapsed during the Dalu Bay earthquake of 2044. Practically, this means you can exit through the basement directly onto the new MTR line through Central. With any luck, you can be gone without anyone knowing how. Unfortunately, this route is heavily alarmed, so you'll be forced to go in the front door. If you can con the front desk, you should have no problems. The facility is both an office and a residence, so strange people coming and going at odd hours is not unusual. If you're not up to fast talk, however, be prepared to shoot your way in. Lou does not care if you were loud or quiet, but a word of caution. He came by all this information via the loose lips of one of the research team. Other fixers know this job. Move fast, and you are guaranteed success. But there are definitely other Shadowrunners with eyes on the prize. Do it. Very well, Steel Arm Lou sends his regards and bids you good fortune and plenty of ammunition. The dramatic git. Don't die, Fist-sensei. Our arrangement has been very profitable so far, and I would hate to lose that. And then, restaurant job. One of the things I've learned over the years is that even the rich and powerful have annoyances, thorns in their side, if you will. No one is without troubles, the rich just have different ways of solving them. The client for this run has grown tired of one particular thorn in his side. Chung Sing Rooster Low. Low is a red pole for one of the smaller triads here in Hong Kong, the 289s, or the Easy Money Gang, if you prefer. Despite the 289's small stature, Low's illegal activities have managed to damage the client's profits. Mr. Johnson would like you to help him show Low the error of his ways. Low takes an evening every few months to dine at the Shangri-La restaurant in Aberdeen. If you aren't aware, Shangri-La is an elite establishment serving primarily corporate clientele from Wuxing Incorporated. Because of this, it's not unusual for diners to bring bodyguards or assistants with them. In Low's case, he brings a particularly brutish enforcer known as the Talon and undoubtedly feels well protected. You are going to prove just how wrong he is in this regard. You are to kidnap Rooster Low. So long as he is alive and in relatively good health, all options are on the table. While keeping the run quiet would make things easier for Mr. Johnson, no one will shed too many tears over a few dead triad thugs. The client has arranged an exit via boat. So long as you can get low from the interior to the restaurant dock, the client will handle everything else. Despite being a red pole, Lowe is a tactician, not a fighter. Don't expect him to put up much of a fight. And Talon, on the other hand, is as nasty as they come. Be careful about how you confront him, or things may go very badly. Take the run. I've let the client know you've accepted the job. By the time you arrive at the Shangri-La, the boat to get you out will be waiting. And then open the jobs directory. Claim payment for the Whampoa garden murders. Alright, message pops on screen. The Whampoans tell me that they've ousted all of their Council of Elders, something to do with you exposing their efforts to cover up their own mess. It isn't the retribution I expected, but I think it's acceptable. If there's one thing I don't trust, it's people who won't pay what they owe. Thankfully, the Whampoans are more reliable than NG and her allies, and so am I. Your payment is attached. Alright, let's see if the Shadowland BBS has anything new. Ooh, I can post pay data? Nice. I will do that. Oh, and I can claim payment for sold pay data. Nice. Search BBS for relevant keywords. Oh my god. Why? I feel like this is mostly extraneous lore stuff, so if you want me to go back through and read all these, I will. But otherwise, I think I'm going to read that off camera, because it has nothing to do with what's going on in any way. So let's go talk to Ractor and tell him about the fact that we have a job with his old friends. My friend, there's something that I would like to discuss with you. Something related to the Ares run that you recently accepted. Yes! You may recall my story about my former colleagues, Taylor and Hardingham, the ones who stole my research. They work at that facility. If the auto repair circuits that they took from me still exist, they are there. I need you to bring me on the run to retrieve them. Of course, you'll be the first man on the train when we head out. Thank you, my friend. You will not regret this decision, I guarantee it. I'm definitely going to regret this decision. He's going to try to murder one of them, and I need them to be alive if I want to frame the others for his death. So I'm definitely going to regret this decision. I'm fine with him having all those things. I want to give this sword to Gaichu. I feel like Gaichu would love this sword. Speaking of, where is that guy? He's on my team now. Oh, is he downstairs? He might be in the room that is Ractor's sleeping quarters. I feel like he would have talked about it if he was, but I'll check anyway. Yep, there he is. Let's talk. The storage room that functions as Gaichu's cabin is a cramped, overheated mess. Piles of old ship parts share space with tarnished cookware, flats of instant noodles, a collection of cast-off clothes, and reams of diagnostic manuals for obsolete computer hardware. To top it all off, there's barely any light whatsoever. All of the bulbs in the room are missing. Gaichu is busily moving boxes around, apparently in an effort to carve out some personal space amid the junk that he shares his cabin with. As you enter, he cocks his head and turns around. Welcome to my sanctuary, Fist-sensei. I apologize for lack of light, but as I did not need it, Gobbet took the bulbs for use elsewhere. Gaichu puts down the box that he's in the process of moving and politely bows his head towards you. How can I be of assistance? I just wanted to see how you were settling in. Gaichu rolls his shoulders in a diffident shrug. I live. I am among those who can make use of my services, and who are not attempting to claim the bounty on my head. Is that not enough for now? He wasn't even on the last run. I need to talk to you about your condition, being a ghoul. Gaichu inclines his head. As you wish. You are my benefactor, and as such, I yield to you. Ask then. I will do my best to answer. Aside from being blind, how has it affected you? Aside from my heightened senses of smell and hearing, I am stronger, tougher, and more resilient than any mundane human. I can achieve feats of physicality that are normally restricted to adepts and those with extensive enhancements. Gaichu lifts one hand, fingers crooked to show off his elongated nails, claws really. These as well, as sharp as any small knife. I prefer my sword, but in a grapple they come in extremely handy. He draws one nail over the surface of his shoulder plates. A hair-fine spiral of armor peels off and the nails rake. Do you still need to sleep? Gaichu chuckles, his laughter rasping out over his lips. Unfortunately, I do. I am not an undead creature of legend. If I manage to unlock the secret of rest without sleep, I will be certain to inform you. I thought ghouls were all animalistic predators. Most are. In the vast majority of cases, the infected become crazed predators everyone sees on the nightly Trid news. Gaichu bares his jagged teeth, running his tongue across the tips of them as he tilts his head back. I bear the physical signs, but not the mental ones. A few escape that fate. There are others, though. In Africa, there is a nation of ghouls. It is called Azamando. The intelligent ghouls in Azamando care for the ones whose higher faculties have been ravaged by the disease. Still, it is not a safe place to visit. Or, if you want to call it that, it not a safe place to visit. What makes you different? I am willful. Those with a strong sense of self, a chip on their shoulder if you will, are always those that survive the infection with their minds intact. I suppose I am selfish enough to have retained a passable semblance of my former humanity. It seems like your condition is stabilized. For now it has. I will not suddenly become a ravenous beast lurking in the hold of your ship. At least, no more so than I already am. Gaichu bares his teeth in a wry grin, dipping his head a little. Why did you pick the name Gaichu anyway? It was given to me. This is what the Japanese call ghouls, for the most part. I am vermin, a thing shunned by polite society to be hunted and slain for a bounty. My old life is gone. It seems as apt a name for the streets as any other that I could choose. Yeah, probably this. Usually Shadowrunners pick something more impressive. Gaichu leans back against the boxes behind him. Once I establish myself as Shadowrunner of quality, the name will become impressive. Until then, I am unconcerned with what common people think of it. Your armor is heavier than what most Shadowrunners wear, and more distinctive too. Darn it. But I know about the Renraku connection. That is correct. It is the armor worn by the elite soldiers of the Renraku corporate military, the Red Samurai. What are the Red Samurai? The Renraku military's special operations division. The most elite that the corporation has to offer. On par with Ares' Firewatch or Tairngeir's Ghosts. Red Samurai are world-class soldiers assigned to only the most difficult and important missions. That armor is a rare thing for a Shadowrunner to have. That is true. It is considerably less rare for a Red Samurai to have a suit of it, however, even if he goes rogue. You are a Red Samurai? Indeed. For the entirety of my adult life, I was a member of the Renraku military, specifically the Red Samurai. That changed relatively recently. I feel the reasons are abundantly clear. Hence, I still possess my armor, my sword, my training. They have served me well in both my previous life and this one. This question seems pretty obvious. I mean, when you're a ghoul, like when you're a sentient ghoul, what else are you going to do except go to that nation in Africa? How'd you end up in Hong Kong, though? I was searching for a cure. I needed a place where I could disappear into the shadows, find work, and evade capture if a cure did not materialize. The Yamato Act meant that it was even more dangerous to be in Japan than anywhere else. Gaichu smiles thinly, leaning back on his heels. I went to China, primarily because I still hoped to be able to return home. It felt less final if I fled to somewhere nearby. I went first to Shanghai, but Renraku's presence there is significantly more robust than in Hong Kong. I learned that my previous unit had not stopped hunting me after I left Japan, so I decided to move further afield. Gaichu unfurls his hands, claws pointing toward the ceiling. Hence Hong Kong, where else can anyone arrive and disappear without the city carrying one wit? I like this, because the last one was in Berlin. Berlin seems a good spot. Perhaps 5 years ago, but the recent upheavals and the newly iron-fisted Seder Krupp influence filled me with trepidation. The flux state is no more. Long live the corporate Berlin of the future. Since arriving here, I have drifted between neighborhoods, selling my services to those who are unafraid of my appearance and condition. Gaichu frowns deeply. It has not been as profitable as I hoped. Did you grow up in a corporation? Yes, in the Keihanshin, the Kyoto-Osaka-Kobe sprawl. It is less populated than Neo-Tokyo, but not by much. I grew up in East Kobe, where my father was posted in a Renraku complex. Gaichu roots around in a nearby box, running his fingertips over several chips before deciding on one. He slots it into his PDA and a TRID photo flickers to life in the space between you. A young man, obviously Gaichu, leans against a railing which overlooks a sprawling harbor complex of skyscrapers and cranes. His school uniform is ripped, and the beginnings of a black eye are forming. Abrasions cover his knuckles, and blood dots his pants. Despite this, he's grinning like he's just won the lottery. Vibrant. Fierce. You look a little beat up. Ah, that must have been on Mount Maya. If I remember right, I gave better than I got in that fight. 3 against 1, but they were out of shape and cocky. I used to cause a lot of trouble when I was in school. My father was constantly raising that I had no sense of responsibility and that I needed to take life more seriously. A cackle erupts from Gaichu, sudden mirth spreading across his face. The final straw was when he bailed me out of jail. I would have tried Raymond's patience too. That is the curse of fathers everywhere, to have their children give them ulcers, especially true for high-strung, authoritarian ones like Yasujiro. My friends and I stole a delivery van. It had a shipment of Shiawase SimSense decks, brand new, very expensive. We were going to fence them and use the money to take a trip to Okinawa. Gaichu pauses, cocking his head. Are you familiar with what it is like to grow up in a corporate family? Not a clue. You have to understand, children are trained to hate rival corporations. We did not regard a theft of Shiawase goods as illegal. We were simply doing our part to ensure Renraku's supremacy. This kind of behavior is ignored and even tacitly encouraged by company media. Unfortunately, we were caught by Shiawase security, not Renraku. What did your father do next? Gaichu clicks his tongue a few times. He seems reluctant to continue. That is a story for another time, unfortunately. I still have a lot of arranging to do, and I doubt anyone else will be willing to be alone with me in a darkened room. Come back later. We can discuss it further. Okay, if that's what you want. Gaichu bows politely. It is, and thank you again for your hospitality. Ooh, box of memories. Oh, okay. It's the same things that were there before. But that's actually his box. Gaichu cocks his head, sniffing the air in your direction. Ah, I see you found my box of personal effects. Please, feel free to examine whatever you like within it. Just take care to put them back when you are done. I do not own much, but the things I keep are very precious to me. They are all that remains of my former life. Examine the wooden mask. Yep, I want to know what he says about it. Oh, this is new. The expression, while kindly, is ambiguous and uncanny. Viewed from above, the expression is one of calm contentment. Shifting the mask to view it at an upward angle causes the expression to seem melancholy, almost pained. What's this wooden mask, Gaichu? It is a mask from the historical No play, Ikuta Atsumori. The face is that of a young samurai, Taira no Atsumori. Gaichu faces your direction, gesturing towards the mask. I had a collection of a dozen or so No masks when I was younger. That is the last remaining one and my personal favorite. I already know what the difference between a normal play and a No play is. Yeah, No plays are very elaborate. Very elaborate. All the talking is kind of sing-song, and movements are not things that any actual human would ever make. Also, there's a lot of makeup and masks. What's the play about? A young man travels with the priest who raised him to Ikuta's shrine to commune with the spirits of his father, Taira no Atsumori. The young man's father died at the Battle of Ichi-no-Tani when the son was only a baby, and he wishes to know whose father was. The pair stay the night in a small hut. In the night, the hermit in the hut explains that he is the ghost of Atsumori. Atsumori has been granted a brief reprieve from his time in the afterlife to meet his son. During the night, they speak of the battle in which Atsumori was killed, the history of the Taira family, and their philosophy. Atsumori fades into darkness as he finishes the tale of the Taira's downfall, just as the family itself faded into obscurity. So think we, yet oh that we might change this fragile dream of joy into the lasting love of waking life, says Atsumori before fading. It is a tale of sorrow, love, and the burden of war upon the dead and living alike. The price one pays for war is not always in one's own blood alone, but in the shattering of one's own family. Why is it your favorite? Gaishu smiles, expression distant. A measure of civic pride, I suppose, and I like the story. Taira no Atsumori died in the Battle of Ichinotani just outside Kobe. The play takes place primarily at Ikuta Shrine, which is located in downtown Kobe. In old cities in Japan, especially in Keihanshin, I have always felt there is a sense of history wherever one looks. The skyline may have skyscrapers and delivery drones, but the foundations are laid on the bones of the dead. Gaishu shrugs, folding his arms across his chest. I think it is important to remember their sacrifices and joys, sorrows and glories. Gaishu laughs suddenly, shaking his head. This is why I sometimes worry that I am a sentimentalist at heart. Alright, and let's examine the lacquered box. By the by, the sentimentalist who murders people to restore face. Yep, makes sense. The box is a deep, glossy black cube. The edges and corners are rounded rather than sharp, and the gold flake inlay across the surface glitters even in the dim light of the room. Sliding the top off, the interior contents are revealed, a calligraphy set, complete with inkstone and block brushes and paper. Gaishu wrinkles his nose, his expression one of distaste. Ugh, that thing. It is a beautiful set, but it is a shame that I am unable to make use of it. Because you're blind? Gaishu snorts derisively, stifling laughter. No, my handwriting has always been absolutely terrible. Whatever fanciful stories you may have heard of being able to tell a swordsman's ability by his handwriting, I assure you that they are wrong. The set was a gift from a professor of Japanese literature. He appreciated my interest in the classics, the tale of Heike, the tale of Genji, the collection of 10,000 leaves, etc., etc. I think he wished to encourage me to cultivate non-martial interests. Gaishu smiles crookedly and shrugs. I appreciate the gesture, but my attempts at fine calligraphy mostly resemble excited chickens prancing over paper, their feet soaked in ink. Alright. And let's talk to Ractor. Sorry about the smell. It's long past time to purge the coolant sump. He frowns. If I had access to the proper equipment, this would not be a problem. I could clean the fluid and reuse it, but alas, halogen treatment chambers are rather hard to come by, even in a place like Aoi. He shakes his head as if to clear it. Anyway, my friend, you didn't come here to discuss the ins and outs of shop maintenance, I'm sure. So what brings you here? I've been thinking about what we talked about last time. Mind if I ask you a few questions? He tilts his head in acquiescence. Be my guest. I have no secrets to keep. About the drone self-repair system that you invented, how did it work? There were 3 distinct elements to my approach. When these elements were all working in concert, prototypes that utilized the process displayed remarkable self-repair capabilities. This may be a lengthy explanation. I can skim over it if you please, or I can break it down for you if you're genuinely interested. Give me the long version. If I'm going all in for these like hour-and-a-half long videos, I might as well just do it. He shifts his cigarette to the corner of his mouth. Very well, the long version it is. The first element of my process was an outer skin that the drone could be wrapped in, a refinement of older biometric self-healing materials, modeled to emulate the self-repair capabilities of living beings. Imagine a polymer composite, interlaced with microtubules, capillaries if you will. These vessels are capable of delivering body agents to the site of a wound as it occurs, thus healing it. I've heard of smart materials that operate on a similar principle. They've been around for decades, haven't they? Yes, though they remained uncommon until recently. As I said, my material was a refinement on those earlier designs. It was also only the first part of a system. The synergy between the 3 was what made the project work. The second element involved the underlying structure of the drone's architecture, the servos, gears, circuits, etc. Utilizing self-assembling materials and redundant systems, I created a system by which damaged components could be fabricated and replaced by the drone itself, without any need for human interference. Alright, so you have self-healing skin and a self-replacing underlying structure. What was the third part? Finally, the system had a magical component. The corners of his mouth dips downward. I must confess to a certain degree of ignorance when it comes to this portion of the project. I understand some of the theory behind what was done, but the specifics are beyond me. I'm surprised. I thought that this was your process through and through. Oh, it is. I was the one who recognized the need for a magical component, but I feel no shame in admitting that I cannot understand the specifics. I have a mind for figures in physics in the natural world. Magic works according to a different set of principles altogether. Truth be told, it makes my head hurt. Okay, so why did you need this third component? You said it was your idea. In layman's terms, a magical element was necessary to render the system self-perpetuating. Obviously, no purely mechanical system can repair itself indefinitely. The synthetic skin becomes more brittle with every wound that it heals, and the automated assembly components will eventually run out of materials to work with. As a rule, fighting against entropy is a losing proposition. But with magic, we can rewrite the rules, weaken the grasp of those entropic forces to the point that they are rendered negligible. Think of magic as the lubrication that keeps the gears turning. I wish that it weren't necessary, but I am also a realist, and I must confess that it is required for the system to work. And this package of systems is what your former colleague stole from you, what you need to get back. Yes, given enough time and resources, I might be able to recreate the first two components of the system on my own. But the magical component is, and forever will be, completely beyond me. And that is why it's so important that we recover my research and the prototype that was stolen, and we will recover them. Of that I have no doubt. Yeah, there's a hard limit to the fusion of man and machine. Does your vision of the future require us to get past that? You're speaking of the essence limit, and the problem associated with essence loss. He releases a plume of smoke from the corner of his mouth. Yes, of course it will be a problem. But as with all problems, a workaround will present itself. Of this I am certain. Are you basing that on anything, or are you just taking it on faith? He smirks at you. No, my friend, I am not taking it on faith. My beliefs are rooted in my own observation and experiences. For the time being, let us leave the matter at that. I have some more questions for you. What do you think a post-human future would mean? Freedom. He takes a long drag on his cigarette, sucking the smoke deep into his lungs. When he speaks, it erupts from his mouth in a plume. The ultimate freedom to direct our own progress and to steer ourselves as a people in whatever direction we wish. Consider, my friend, every aspect of Koshé was tailor-made for a purpose, dreamed up, designed, and built by a singular guiding intellect. Alright, keep going. Now think of the circumstances surrounding your own birth, and the building blocks that shaped you into the man you are today. Your mother and father exchanged fluids, sloppily no doubt, and with all the mindless abandon such biological imperatives entail. That might be the ugliest description of sex I've ever heard. Ugly perhaps, but accurate. Sexual intercourse is an inarticulate process, a messy delivery mechanism for genetic material spurred on by hormones and base urges. Any attempts to guide the process on a social level gets branded eugenics and described as monstrous, for obvious reasons. But I digress. The point I was making was that the forces that shaped you, and me, and anyone else you care to mention, were ultimately mindless ones. Blind, manipulative, biological drives that let a sperm and an egg to collide. Add in a roll of the dice and a dash of Mendelian genetics, and here you are. The natural process of evolution and sexual selection guide the development of our own species through trial and error. Throw through a few billion darts at the wall and see what sticks. In the future that I foresee, this process will be reined in, guided by our own controlling intellects. To co-opt an antiquated phrase, the myth of intelligent design will become reality. But we will be our own gods, reshaping ourselves as we see fit. Yeah, this one. Biological evolution is full of choice, Rector. We choose who we mate with. That choice helps determine the traits that our offspring will inherit. Very true, but the pool of possible traits that biological reproduction can select for is small. If I wanted to produce offspring with gill slits instead of lungs, I'd be out of luck. In a post-human future, I would face no such limitations, nor would anybody. We would no longer be slaves to the selective processes that have dictated our development since time immemorial. We would truly become masters of our own fate. Let's say that you're right. At what point do we cease being human and become something else instead? He shrugs. Whenever we choose to define ourselves in that way, humanity is an intrinsically human concept. If we decide to brand ourselves as a different species, that is our decision to make. I strongly suspect that nobody would care. So tell me, what do you want? What's the endgame that you envision for us in this grand post-human future? Kolshe raises itself up on its legs, stretching so that Raptor can caress its chassis. The motion is alarmingly fluid, more like a living thing than a machine. Raptor traces his fingertips over the drone's shell, his eyes focused on an imaginary point on the horizon. We have placed such unnecessary limitations on ourselves, my friend. It fills my heart with sorrow to know what we could be, but are not. I would see those limits stripped away, peeled back and discarded for the betterment of all. In the future that I foresee, we will open our eyes to the possibilities that surround us. Bodies reshaped to thrive in the deep ocean and the depths of space. Bodies inspired by nature, or the human imagination, or both. Bodies that can be used and shed and used again, inhabited as their wearers see fit. The timely realization of such a future is what drives me forward. It is the cause to which I have devoted my life, and thankfully, it is inevitable. He tips a cigarette, sending ash spilling down onto the metal floor. Assuming, of course, that we don't destroy ourselves first. I have to go. Maybe we can continue this another time? Oh, wait. Oh, there's a new one. So in this post-human future that you're trying to bring about, what role would a drone like Kolshe play? A similar one to the role that he plays now, I imagine. He was designed for a purpose, after all. That said, I can see the techniques that went into his design and fabrication having much broader ranging applications. You're pretty attached to this drone of yours, aren't you? You've even assigned it a gender. You keep calling it him. Yes, of course. Kolshe is very close to me. As if on cue, the drone scuttles forward, the hardened tips of its claws screeching across the metal floor of the shop. It comes up short, just in front of you, a strange mechanical chitter rising from deep within its chassis. You might accuse me of anthropomorphizing my little companion, assigning human characteristics to him where in fact there are none. Truth be told, there is much more to Kolshe than meets the eye. But that is a different conversation. One best suited to be held for another time. Why? Why not talk about it now? Because I have work to do, and I'm sure that you can find better uses for your time than listening to me prattle on. He gestures towards the hatch with the ceiling. And with that, I'm afraid I must ask you to show yourself out. We can continue our talk a later time. At a later time. Alright, Raptor, we can talk later. He turns away. Good night. Nah, come on, man. I wanted to listen to you prattle on. Alright. Now let's go to sleep and have an undoubtedly spooky dream. You wake with a start. Once again, you're tangled in your sheets, drenched in sweat. Your throat feels like it's on fire. You can't remember what your dreams were about. Not precisely. But again, you feel that yearning sensation. The emptiness in your gut and in your chest. Your head frothing, you heave yourself out of bed. Aw, man, that was decidedly less spooky than I wanted it to be. Alright, Duncan, let's talk. You enter Wu's cabin to find him moving through some sort of stretching routine. His muscles ripple as he flows tranquilly from one pose to the next. You look different, Shen. Better, I hope. Sort of. It's like I've flipped forward a few chapters instead of turning a page. I mean, you look like you just... not the you I knew. I get it. You're you too, just a lot leaner. Wu looks down at his torso, chuckles. Yeah, remember how Lockjaw used to make fun of my gut? He used to call me Dunkin' Donut. He smiles. His teeth are perfect. I guess I got tired of that whole running out of energy walking upstairs thing. Plus, I needed to slim down to get into the academy. And once I got off my ass and started exercising, you know, really exercising, I found that I loved it. It's the focus, I guess. I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to talk to anyone. All I have to do is concentrate on my form and count my reps. And no matter what happens after that, I've started my day by accomplishing something. So what about you? He gives you a once-over. How are you doing? Yeah, probably this one. Because, I mean, I don't think Fist-sensei wanted him to get back into this life. Right after getting out of jail and trying to reform himself, he starts having to do all these gray missions for somebody. I feel like this isn't the life he wanted right now. About how you'd expect. Been better. Well, I gotta tell you, you're good at running this crew, Shen. But there's something I still don't completely understand. He picks up an ammo box and begins using it like a dumbbell. What do you get out of being a Shadowrunner? I don't think it would be any of these. Like, I don't think this is something he enjoys. I think this is something he does. And it's got him, like, no chance at, like, living a normal life, essentially. His sins burned out. He can't really go back to where he came from, because there's nothing there for him anymore. I wonder, what would he get out of it if he got something out of it? I feel like if he were to get something out of it, it would be the freedom. Because, I mean, my guess is that's why he did gang stuff even after he was taken in. Is just the fact that he could do what he wanted to do. So I think it would be this one. Freedom. I'm not a cog in the corporate machine. Sure you're not. He chuckles to himself. Come on, Shen, think. Of course you're a cog. Everyone's a cog. Whether you're working for them, consuming their crap, getting brainwashed by the news media that they control, voting for people that they put in front of you, or being policed by the people that they owned, you're a cog. And you're the lowest kind of cog. A Shadowrunner. A disposable asset. Sinless. Slithering through the cracks of society, doing jobs that are too dirty for the corps to do themselves. You don't even appear on a corporate balance sheet. Runners can be more than that. They can move their own agenda, fight the power. I've never heard a story where a Shadowrunner did something other than kill someone, steal something, or perpetrate some other sort of shady shit. But good luck with that. Moo watches you, waiting for you to say something. You thinking about getting chromed up? With Cyber? He shakes his head. Oh my god, how many times are you going to ask me that? At least a couple dozen more times. You always have the best reactions. Wu grins. His teeth are blindingly white. I told you one time I was thinking about it when I was 13. Let it go. I'm not going to pollute my body with that shit. You? Yeah, this one. Wu, look at me. I've got the magic in my hands. Of course I won't get cybered. Yeah, I guess you got a point there. That's a good thing, by the way. Better keep yourself whole and in touch with the world around you. I may not have magic, but I know that's true. I want to talk about you and me. He rests his eyes on you for a moment, his face neutral. Yeah, I guess now's as good a time as any. You start. You're not acting like the Duncan Wu that I grew up with. What made you decide to become a cop? I needed structure. Bad. You know that better than anyone. I was already hardcore when we met Mr. Ultra Violence. I'd do anything to get a rise out of guys I was rolling with. Gouging eyes, inverting knees, curb stomping. That shit got me cheers. I was like a pit fighter, bloodletting for the crowd, and I learned to enjoy it. But I never learned how to block out the memories of their screams when I was lying in bed at night. The guilt started eating me alive. And then I was scared to be alone with my thoughts, so I tried to drown them out with all the things that you drown things out with. You never told me that before. You seemed to have it under control when we were together. It's funny how people remember things. Yeah, when we squatted together, and later, when we were living with Ray, I was still a violent son of a bitch, but basically under control. But that was you, Fist-sensei. You were the voice of reason, the brains. Me, the brains? Don't pretend you weren't the leader. You know how it was. When we ran the streets together, I was the muscle and you called the shots. You pointed, and I hit. But later, after Ray got me some counseling, I realized that I had to let you call the shots so that I wouldn't have to. Because I knew that what I wanted was wrong. By following your lead, I was deflecting my own guilt onto you. I could just knock heads and walk away clean, you know. Don't look at me. I'm just doing what I'm told. And then you left. Without you there, I knew I was in serious trouble, the poster boy for anger management issues. Raymond could provide a stable environment, a decent therapist, and money for prescriptions, but you know Raymond. He's an egghead engineer with a philanthropic streak, not a drill sergeant, and a drill sergeant was what I needed. I needed structure and discipline in a way that he couldn't offer me. I needed a cage to keep myself in line. So I found myself a cage made of rules and procedures and training, the Lone Star. Raymond helped me with my application and provided a decent character reference. I got in and it helped a lot. Lone Star got me where I needed to be. And now it's all gone and you're back. Seems like Carter's death hit you pretty hard. Wu continued stretching. Yeah, she was a good one. We were a real team. Joining Lone Star helped me in all sorts of important ways, no doubt about it. I really embraced being a cop. I studied my ass off. But no matter how hard I worked, I was never more than a model cop with a brutal streak. There are plenty of assignments that were perfect for a big, mean orc like me. Assignments that would have fed my need to hurt people. But I met Carter about a year in and she changed things. She talked about values and goals and priorities and constructing the life that you want to live. She was a real trip. Sounds like a good woman. She was a cop, a partner, a mentor, and a serious badass when she needed to be, but yeah, she was a good person too. She kept me focused. When Raymond asked me to meet him in Hong Kong, I had a feeling I was going to wind up going off the reservation if I didn't bring Carter along. And now she's gone, and here I am. Let's see. Yeah, honestly this one. Because, I mean, Fist-sensei went on his own redemption quest, and I feel like he'd recommend the same. I'd say that you honor her memory by showing her how much you've learned. Wu's mouth drops open, then curves into a grin. He shakes his head, still smiling. I'm sorry, did Shen Ying just give me sage advice? Sounds like you did some growing up on your own. You've been waiting a long time to ask me about the night I left, haven't you? Wu chuckles and hooks his thumb in his belt. I guess I have, yeah. It's about what you were doing before you got thrown into that court facility. You said you couldn't tell me where you were going, that it was on a need-to-know basis, I get that. But how did it go? I feel like now he would actually tell him what was going on. But of these two options, I guess I have to play him still ashamed, so can't tell you that either. Whatever you say, Shen. Do you ever think about when we were kids? He begins moving through some sort of pattern. Might be Tai Chi. I try not to. What are you talking about exactly? I mean, we've already heard about the Squat, and we've already heard about Raymond, sort of. The old gang. Lockjaw, Double Tray, those guys. You realize the old gang you were talking about were teenagers, right? Younger than Gobbet. Man, they felt so old back then, but Lockjaw couldn't have been more than 17 tops. And Double Tray was only 13 when... Wu stops moving. Drifts off for a moment. Why are you thinking of them? Just thinking about that thing DT used to say. I want to see that. Wu returns to his patterns. He manipulates an imaginary soap bubble between his hands. Improvise, adapt, overcome. That's how you beat the street. I remember. I remember Double Tray saying that. It was a while when we were living between the Red Hot Newts and the 162s. Crazy-ass dwarfs, anarchists on one side and flesh-eating ghouls on the other. Those are the days that you long for? Long for? No. I was thinking that it's just the same now as it was back then. Nah. Our priorities were simple. His raspy baritone fills the space between you and bridges it. Survive and watch each other's backs. Yeah, I know. Let's talk later. Yeah, later would be good. Don't get me wrong, catching up is nice, but I'm not used to being as social as this. That's one of the reasons why it was so nice to work under Carter. We both appreciated long silences. Sorry, man. She seemed like good people. It's all good. She's gone, and I've accepted that. I guess it's just been a big day is all. Anyway, good talk. I'll catch up with you later. Big day? Have you ever heard anyone use that phrase before? I haven't. I have never heard anyone use that phrase. Big day. Isabel is jacked into the octopus. Her body sits inert, her breathing shallow. As you approach, an image blossoms onto the largest of the octopus's view screens. Oh, hey! Hello down there. It's good to see you again. She smiles down on you from the monitor, her outline scintillating with blue-white light. She looks peaceful, at ease. You really feel at home in the Matrix, don't you? You look happy in there. I suppose that I am. It's a comfortable thing as long as I'm jacked in. I can be whoever I want to be, whatever I want to be. Out there in Meatspace, I usually feel uncomfortable in my own skin. The avatar offers you a lopsided smile. I'd probably just live in here if I could. I've heard about deckers who tried it. It never turned out well. Dehydration is a bad way to go. I know, and of course I was joking, but truth be told, I do spend most of my time out there wishing I was back in here. If you were a decker, you'd feel the same. It's hard to live in a cage of meat when you know how sweet it feels to leave your body behind. Nice avatar. That looks good on you. Isn't it? I've spent months customizing this avatar. She feels more real to me than my own skin. She pauses for a moment, considering. Then her avatar shimmers forward, filling the screen. A slight frown crosses her face. You know, Fist-sensei, I've been thinking about that question you asked me a little while back. The one about the walled city? The avatar fidgets. The one that I dodged? Yeah, I remember. Look, I wasn't trying to cheat you out of your answer. I want you to know that. It's just that talking about the walled city is problematic for me. I understand. I grew up in the Barrens. I know how hard it can be to talk about this stuff. No, it isn't that. I'm not explaining myself correctly. It isn't that I'm tortured by bad memories or anything like that. The problem is that I can't remember my childhood. Amnesia, the ultimate plot device. The walled city, that entire chapter of my life, is nothing but a blur to me. I can't give you general information about life on the inside, but I can give you general information about life on the inside, but the specifics of my own experience are gone. Gone? What do you mean gone? Do you have amnesia or something? Something like that. The avatar fidgets on the screen. There are a variety of factors in play. The upshot of all this is that there are things that I can tell you about, but only a few, and only in bold strokes. Don't expect any personal stories. I couldn't share them, even if I wanted to. So if that's okay with you, if you'll be satisfied with trivia and urban legends, then we can talk. Just say the word. Otherwise, well, at least you know why. How'd you lose your childhood memories? The Isabel avatar frowns. I'd rather not go into it. It's personal. Suffice it to say, I've never missed them. At least, not until now. If you ever want to talk about it, I'm a good listener. She looks away. Great, I'll keep that in mind. Give me what you can about the walled city. At this point, anything would help. Alright, the avatar licks its lips and nods. I can do that. The Isabel avatar turns, beginning to pace on the screen. Where she steps, spiderwebs of light spread out across the tiled ground of the octopus's sculpted matrix hub. When I think of the walled city, the thing that stands out the most in my mind is the legends, the mythology of the place. If I hadn't lived with them, I might have found those stories fascinating. The scintillating... They really like using scintillating in this. The scintillating figure turns to you on the screen. Did you know that Kowloon Walled City is supposed to be cursed? That's what the locals believe. We had ghost stories and everything. Ghost stories? The Isabel avatar nods. Our own homegrown legends about things that haunted the Walled City. Demons from another place. The Yama Kings. Yama Kings, derived from the mythological judge of the dead, I presume. That was where they came from, yeah, but the Yama Kings that we told stories about were their own things. Bastardizations of the original myths. It'd probably be easiest to think of them like urban legends, our own little pantheon of monsters and morality tales. The stories are still clear in my mind, even after everything that happened. Everyone in the walled city believed them. You can't get out of the walled city if you make a deal with Fu Mang. Get the hearts from the 44 people closest to you and bring them to him. He'll reward you with riches, or you can get out of the walled city. Don't go under that arch, or Kianya will catch you. The avatar grabs at the air, its hands leaving glowing trails as they move. She'll rip out your teeth, tie your tongue in a knot, and make you her slave for eternity. We had Qi Xiang, our own homegrown judge of souls. People had let themselves be flayed alive in hopes that he'd reawaken them in a better life. And we had Lam Vi, the Ebony Queen, who teach you to hide so well you'd slowly mutate into a cockroach. The avatar cocks its head, smirking a dismissive gesture. It was all bullshit, of course, but everyone in the walled city believed it. If you're so convinced that, if everyone believed in these things, maybe they're real. She shakes her head. No, they couldn't be. If they were, the body count in the walled city would be a lot higher. The Yama Kings are just a fiction that my parents and neighbors invented to excuse their own actions. I can't get ahead because demons are keeping me down. I'm betting one of them is real. It's almost embarrassingly transparent when you look at it. Lam Vi turning people into cockroaches? It's just a Kafkaesque trope layered onto a morality tale. Qi Xiang? He's just Anubis with a different coat of paint. And you know that archway that I mentioned? The one that Kianya was supposed to haunt? I knew someone who found it. There was nothing on the other side but concrete. It's all superstitious drivel, Fist-sensei. The misery in the walled city isn't the fault of demons or devils. We created it, and we perpetuate it. We blame made-up monsters for our own failings. There's nothing more pathetic than that. It sounds less like you're trying to convince me than it does like you're trying to convince yourself. I don't need to convince myself of anything. I'm telling you this for your benefit, not mine. Anyway, that's enough for now, huh? I'm sure that gives you plenty to chew on. My obligation to give you an answer is satisfied, I think, so let's talk about something else. Can you think of anything else that might help us? I don't know, maybe. I'll put some thought into it. The avatar pauses, turns away. After a moment, Isabel's voice pours through the Tridio speakers. On second thought, maybe I do have an idea. Are you open to taking on more work? Of course, kindly sending me new job offers all the time. This wouldn't be work for Auntie Cheng. Think of it as a side gig that you'd be doing for me. I think I've got a line on some software that could help us. I can't get it on my own, though. It's a two-person job, at least. What kind of software? It's kind of hard to explain. It'd be easier for me to just show you, but trust me, it'll help. I have the run all planned out already. I've done the legwork, I know the location, I know the target. Just say the word, and I'll send everything I have to your mission computer. You can look it over and weigh it and decide what you want to do. Alright, deal. Send the file. The Isabel avatar closes his eyes for a moment, then opens them with a smile. Done. You'll find the pertinent documents waiting in your inbox. If you decide to accept the mission, just check the box in the message documentation and it'll ping my comlink automatically. Alright, can't wait to find out what this is all about. I'm sure the briefing I sent you will satisfy your curiosity. Trust me, Fist-sensei, this is a good job, with a solid plan behind it. You'll see as soon as you've read it, and speaking of which, you should do that now. Say no more, I'll go check it out. The avatar beams at you. Fantastic! I can't wait to hear what you think. We're probably going to check that out after whatever we do in the next episode. Alright, Gobbet. You're my last conversation. Gobbet looks up from a dented tin of oysters at the sound of your approach. Her rats, Madness and Folly, scurry from her hips up to her shoulders. Two sets of beady red eyes fix themselves to you. Hey, Seattle. Oyster? She spears a gray lump of seafood with a fingernail and extends it to you. It smells like low tide at a municipal pier. No thanks. She shrugs, then pops the oyster into her own mouth. Suit yourself. So you're here for a reason? How do you like life here on the Bolt Hole? It's fine. Shaping up. Having new roomies is always nice. She smiles. How are you enjoying your cabin? Comfy enough for you? It isn't half bad. Better than some of the places I squatted back in the Barrens. I've heard some stories about the Redmond Barrens. Sounds like a real winner of a place. Kowloon isn't any better, of course, but at least our little slice of home is safe. I'll take the Bolt Hole over the Barrens any day. That's the spirit. A lazy smile spreads across her face as her fingertips rush Madness's back. The rat squeals and darts back into the safe haven of Gobbet's hair. There's space for that? You know, the Bolt Hole is a pretty mediocre name for a ship. Ever consider changing it? Yeah, sure, considered it a bunch of times. I never really cared enough to actually do it, though. She shrugs. You want to call her something else? I'm open to it. Let's call her the Kraken. Aye, aye, Captain, the Kraken it is. Yeah, it's actually pretty good. I think that the others will be happy with it. All those other ones seemed really pretentious. You said you could teach me how to be a better Shadowrunner. I'm here to collect. Still remember that, do you? Huh. I just sort of assumed you laughed that off. No dice, wizened mentor. You offered, now pay up. She straightens. Okay, how about this? I'll tell you a story about a run gone bad. You tell me what you'd have done in the runner's place. Then we'll compare notes and our answer. How's that sound? You tell me. You're the teacher here, remember? Right. It sounds good. Of course it does, so that's what we'll do. She sweeps a tangled rope of hair out of her eyes and back over one pointed ear. After a moment of silent contemplation, she bites her lip and nods. Okay, so, this is a story from early in my career. I was part of a team here in HK, but I did some occasional moonlighting for another group based out of Macau. I was a busy kid. Early in your career? So you were what, like 12 years old? Her eyes narrow in mock indignation. You say that like I couldn't have been. When I was 12, I could have destroyed you. And also, I was 16, practically an adult in orc years. We were up fast. Anyway, the job was a hit on this tower. Sort of a Trid multiplex / apartment complex. I'm sure that they've got them in Seattle, too. You know the kind. 7 huge screens, monster concession stand, coffin apartments on top like barnacles on a whale. I used to go to one back in Seattle. Best way to watch Urban Brawl. Yeah, I don't think it would have been on in one of those. Squatting too often. She nods. Good, you know what I'm talking about then. Our client wanted us to break into one of the apartments. The story was that an ex of hers, a guy named Boggs, lived there. She had been cooped up with him until about a week prior, then things went sour in a big way. She wanted us to get back some things that Boggs kept when he kicked her out. Scared the shit out of him, bloodied him up a bit, made it look like a robbery, you know the drill. I pulled a few jobs like that myself back when I lived in the Barrens. It was a pretty bush league gig, but the pay was decent enough. Not the sort of thing you turn down. So anyway, Sybil Lance, that was our group leader, had a plan. We knew that we had to go in quiet because the Metroplex had a panic system wired directly to the HKPF. If we'd gone in shooting, we'd been drowning in cops within 10 minutes. Sib thought that we could maybe take advantage of the apartment's terrible soundproofing and kick Boggs' door down when the movie got loud. We'd camp out near his doorway, waiting for the ceiling to start raining plaster, then smash our way in with his neighbors, none the wiser. Nice. This sounds kind of familiar. Yeah, it's pretty close to what John Wilkes Booth did when he assassinated Lincoln. Sid was an amateur historian, used to bore the rest of us to tears, but I guess it could occasionally come in handy. So we waited in the hall just like Sybil Lance planned. We had a guy in the elevator, another at the stairs. I was waiting by the floor's communal kitchen. Sib took up position by the door. She had these sire legs that she dumped a ton of new yen into. Hydraulic jacks, strength enhancements, the works. Girl could probably leg press a dump truck. She pauses for a moment. Come to think of it, most of her plans involve kicking things. There's something a little sad about that. Hey, if that was her thing, I wouldn't question it. Yeah, you're very supportive. Me? I'd prefer to work for someone who thought with her head instead of her robot legs. Anyway, we heard a boom from downstairs, felt the walls shake with reverb. Sib wheeled back and gave the door a massive kick, just as she planned. From where I was standing, I couldn't really see what happened next. I could hear a massive crack as her boot slammed into Duraplast. The door flew off its hinges. Exploded off might have been a more accurate phrase. A second later, we heard an ungodly crash. There was a moment of silence, then Sib let out this little gasp. The apartment was in shambles. It looked like a hurricane had hit it. Everything was trashed. Everything but the door, which was miraculously still in one piece. Remember that this was a coffin apartment. It wasn't much wider than the door was to begin with. And Boggs? Well, what was left of him was under the door, too. Well, you got the rough him up part, right? Yeah, unfortunately, he wound up a lot rougher than he was supposed to be. Her nose crinkles in discomfort. That door really did a number on him. Ribs sticking out of the skin, that kind of thing. It was a bloody mess. Jeez. So yeah, Boggs was dead. The stuff that had been sent to the apartment was recovered and smashed to bits, and then the building alarm went off. So that's the situation. Our payday's smashed, my temporary teammates are all standing around with stupid looks on their faces, the cops are coming, I'm standing by the kitchen. She plants her hands on her hips, smiling. What would you have done in my place? Okay. Yeah. Probably this one. Because all of these seem a lot, like, assholier. And this one just doesn't seem all that good. I've tried to improvise. Was there anything in the kitchen you could use to resolve the situation? Good thinking. As it happens, there was. And I knew just what to do with it. The thought popped into my head, and I just went in. She taps her temple with a smile. That's the lesson to remember, Seattle. The first answer that you come up with is almost always the best one you're going to have, so just roll with it. Don't second guess yourself. Don't hesitate. Just act. You'll live longer that way. Got it. Now, when I think crowded theater, I think place where you can shout fire because it'll cause a panic. And then I thought cops don't charge into burning buildings. They help people get out of them. And as it happened, I had the means to create real, genuine fire sitting right across from me. A pair of industrial ovens. You set the building on fire? I encouraged it to burn. Opened the gas vents wide, set the range on a timer, and motored back into the hallway. The others had started arguing amongst themselves. I told them to snap out of it and follow me down into the lobby. We had to clear the hallway before an errant spark took the whole floor out. Unfortunately, the rest of the group wouldn't listen. Sib and the rest of the team were too busy arguing about the relative merits of her let's kick things really hard and see what happens tactical system to want to do anything to do with me. I shouted back to them that the kitchen was going to explode and continue down the hallway. Just like I planned, I got out of that run in one piece. So did every single one of the people in that multiplex. My fire plan worked beautifully. If the rest of the team had listened to me, they might have gotten out of the building too. Kind of a bummer that they didn't, but at least the run turned out well for me. Your team burned to death. She crossed her arms over her chest. Look, they screwed themselves over when Save kicked in that door. They were in a heap of trouble, and what I did would have gotten them out of it if they'd just listened to me. Know how I know? Because it got me out. They could have followed me, but instead they chose to argue until they exploded. That's on them, not me. Of course, I couldn't collect any pay because the run had been a disaster. But after the explosion, I got to ride in the front of a fire truck, and they gave me cookies and a blanket. I wound up dating one of those firemen a few weeks later. All things considered, it could have gone a lot worse. Gallic claps her hands together and rubs them, a satisfied look on her face. So, Seattle, the laughter disappears from her voice and her expression goes serious. It's like somebody flipped a switch. Suddenly, the look in her eyes is shrewd, calculating. Tell me, what was the moral of this story? What was the lesson I was trying to convey? I'm the summary to that story have a point. Don't go on Shadowruns with idiots. Ha, funny guy. She frowns. While that is a lesson, maybe even a valuable one, it isn't what I was trying to convey. Now pay attention because this is important. What I was trying to teach you is that you should trust your impulses. When a run has gone south and you need to improvise, don't overthink it. She scratches Folly behind the ears. Once you committed to doing something, you gotta follow it through though. No arguing or hand-wringing, just do it. If you get caught up in your own head, agonizing over past mistakes, well, don't be surprised if you wind up dead. A kitchen fire can take you down as easily as a cop's bullet if you stand around and let it. Are you certain that Sibilance and the rest of the Macau team are dead? She shrugs. They weren't with me when I got evacuated, with the rest of the moviegoers. I never saw them leave the building, and I haven't heard from them since. I guess it's possible that somebody made it, but I don't really run in those circles anymore. Odds are good that if anyone from the Macau team did survive, they'll have died off by now from sheer incompetence. Shadowrunning is an unforgiving business. You don't get to make too many mistakes. Did any of the stuff in that story actually happen, or did you just make it up for my benefit? That story sounds really stupid. Seattle, I'm hurt. It went down exactly like I said it did. She pauses. Well, except for a couple of embellishments here and there. But they make it a better story. Artistic license and all that. Gobbet leans back and stifles a yawn. Madness and Folly dart up to her left shoulder and lock their beady eyes on you. Hate to break it to you, kiddo, but I'm beat. It's been a long day. Lesson's over for now. We'll pick it back up next time. Watch who you're calling kiddo. I'm older than you are. Yeah, whatever. She makes a brushing motion with her fingers. Scurry along now. Your mentor needs rest. Alright. So, on that note, I think that's where we're going to call this episode. That was a lot of interesting lore, and I'm really looking forward to these missions coming up. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and a comment if you like what you saw. Greatly appreciate it if you did. And I will see you next time.